Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live, the only Facebook Live talk show all about board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Lance Myxter, the Undead Viking himself from Tasty Minstrel Games. Hit me up on social media tonight if you got some questions. You can always find me on Twitter at Board Game Gumbo or on Facebook, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, or on email, boardgamegumbo@gmail.com. Hey, Lance, a couple of show notes before we begin. On Thursday, I got Ted Elsbach coming in from Bezier Games to talk about Werebeast, and I got Chris Kirkman, Dice Hate Me himself, coming in Tuesday to talk about Sleepy Hollow. On the blog side, which is a proud member of Punchboard Media, Jason Dinger did a close look at a hidden gem that we got called Fresco from Queen Games. Check that out. And we've also got some first impressions of photosynthesis and where woods are up. So if you get a chance, go take a look at boardgamegumbo.com on the blog. But enough about that and enough about show notes.
Is Ted Elsbach he's like 8 feet tall? I remember
it's going to be chin down. I don't think my camera is going to fit him in there. So
yeah, it's just like whenever I go up to give him the convention hug, I'm like hugging his belly. It's just it's a weird feeling, but he's just a huge gentleman. He's just
and I've got pictures of you and me and Jack together, and you're taller than us, so I can imagine it must be funny for you to have somebody even taller than you.
It's just it's a really good guy too. Plus obviously they've got a lot of really good games that they're coming out with. But have you played Whistle Stop yet? Which was
no. It was at obviously Gen Con being played all over the place. But I was busy teaching other games, so I never got a chance to try. What'd you think?
Oh, Whistle Stop is a fantastic game. It'll most likely be in my top 10 of the year.
What do you compare it to? Is it a train game? Is it
It is. Well, it's like pick up and deliver and tile laying. I mean, it's something. I guess after I played so many games, it's interesting when the mechanisms are the same as things I've already played before. But for me, it's one of those things where, it's like they're being presented in an amalgamation that I haven't seen before, type of thing. And I really like Pick Up and Deliver. I think Pick Up and Deliver is a sadly underutilized mechanism. So I guess that kind of lends it to me to be kind of excited about it more. I mean, Tasty Minstrel Games, my favorite game by the company that I work for is, the sadly out of print Kings of Air and Steam, which was both, it was about delivering goods to different cities using airships and trains and things like that. And I thought the game was fantastic.
I game with my wife a lot, and she had never played a pick up and deliver game. I brought home one of the Envoy games, Spike from R&R Games. Have you played that?
Spike is fantastic.
And I said, man, what is it going to be like? This is going to be a new mechanism for her. Sometimes she shies away from things like that. She ate it up, and I should have known she would like it. She really liked Pick 'em and Deliver as a mechanic, so I was excited.
That's a pretty nice copy of Coliseum you have back there.
Oh, yeah. That's the deluxe fight edition of Coliseum with the metal coins and everything.
Well, the Emperor's edition, as I think we called it for that one. Yeah.
Hey, we've been talking with my special guest, Lance Myxter of Tasty Minstrel. This is BJ from Board Game Gumbo. Welcome back to another episode of Gumbo Live. Great to have everybody here. Look, I think everybody in the industry knows who you are, but just in case,
that's cool.
1 minute elevator pitch. Who is the Undead Viking?
Just a gaming enthusiast most of my life. I live in the upper Midwest. I lived in North Dakota for 35 years. I got married and moved to Minnesota, and then literally I lived on the border of North Dakota and Minnesota. So I just crossed a river. It wasn't like I moved far into Minnesota or anything like that. So
Minot State?
No, I lived in Fargo. And then Moorhead is the city in Minnesota that's right across the river.
It's the one university I remember because Dale Brown, famous coach from LSU, was a graduate of Minot State, as I recall.
My dad
pronounced it right.
I think so. But Minot has an Air Force base. It's basically kept alive because there's a bomber Air Force base up there. And my mother's dad, really great gentleman, rest his soul, he owned a janitorial company that was part of they had a contract for cleaning Minot State. And then I remember he had a crew that went there and was in charge of taking care of the cleanliness at the up there.
It's an important
also,
job.
Also, the nuclear silos. He also did a lot of the as far as that, because we got a lot of nuclear silos up here in North Dakota. So
now, Lance, this is a live show, so we are going to get the occasional comments here and there. I got a couple of them here already. It looks like.
No, ask if they.
There's
Go
Dave.
ahead. Hey, Dave DeGraw.
He said, "I was told that there was going to be free gumbo here."
Well, I don't make gumbo. Do you make gumbo?
I do. I make a pretty mean gumbo. So one of these days I'll have to do that for you. But no, not on the show live. We're not. It's gumbo live, but we don't actually make gumbo live on the show. So.
Well, what is gumbo? Is it just like chili but with fish or something, or what is it?
No, more like a thick, hearty soup. Made with the roux base, and it can have anything from. I mean, we're Cajun, so we'll eat just about anything. So it'll have anything from andouille sausage and tasso to chicken to shrimp. I had a great shrimp and crab leg one that was really good. So, here's another question from him. Dave, Whistle Stop sounds like a dexterity game. They should have picked a better name. Dave,
I think it's one of those things where it's there's so many. There's so many train games out there, right? Trains are just a really popular subject for games, and so I think what happens is that you kind of run out. I mean, it's just like we're like right now we have a game that's kind of in development for us. That's a train game. I'm not trying to give anything away, really. But no, yeah, but it's just it's a something that was presented to us earlier this year. Yeah. At a convention, I think it was presented to Seth Jaffe, the lead developer here. He really liked it, and it was a train game that used a Mancala aspect, and so he's trying to, but we spent 2 hours trying to brainstorm up a name for it. Just instead of like the train Mancala game that's in development,
Right.
But it's just like everything's taken, right?
I like Whistle Stop. Hey, speaking of Seth Jaffe, when I met you at Dice Tower Con, you actually got us a demo session of his game Crusaders Thy Will Be Done. And in fact, you did a little video with Jack that was kind of fun for him.
Thank you very much for being a part of that.
What's happening with tell the fans what's happening with Crusaders? Where are we now?
I can give you a quick rundown of all the stuff that's good to like as far as the Kickstarter campaigns. So there's 3 Kickstarter campaigns that are in process right now. One is Chimera Station, and we are like 99% done with fulfillment for Chimera Station. And then we're going to have copies for sale at Essen, and we're looking at around BGG-Con in November. It will be when people will be able to see it in stores. So we're excited to get that out, and then the one after that was Flow of History.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, Flow of History. We are still slated for early 2018. It might end up being pushed back a little bit because of the whole Chinese New Year thing. It depends on if we can get some stuff done. Right now, we're like, we made sure that like the player markers were these resin models, and so we're making sure those are exactly what we want them to be.
Other than that, tower and all those things.
Tower, yeah. So that is, that's a game that I'm really looking forward to, playing more of too. But that's just, again, one of those things where it just takes time. But it looks like we're going to be able to deliver that on time or even before. Nice. Don't hold us to that, obviously. But Crusaders is coming along really, really well. All of the final development and everything is completely done, and the vast majority of all our art files are now with our publishing partner in China. Excuse me. There are I think we just finally got our final sculpts for all of the the knights and all of the buildings that are going to be in there. We're having, there's and this isn't a problem. It's just a task that we're trying to undertake, because the player boards are going to be able to, you can insert the different buildings into the player boards, then you remove them and put them on the board. So and we wanted them to make it so kind of like with Scoville, where when you put the pepper on the board, there was an empty space there, so they would fit there. And so the player boards are supposed to be a double layer of cardboard. So you have the bottom part, which is just, like the bottom part of it, and then the top part has the cutouts of it. So like now you have kind of like a double thick player board, but they have spots where the items will like kind of stick in, if you will. Right. So like they have. I don't know if I'm explaining that really well.
Yeah.
So we're running into there. I mean, it's been a little bit of a challenge to like make sure that one, like all the different building sculpts for your castles and your churches and what have you, all look really nice, but also making sure that like they are the right size, they can fit into those spots on the board, and you're not going to have any kind of like you have to squish it in there and like ruin it. So we've ran into a little bit of a challenge there, but right now it's on pace. I think if I could pull it up, I'm just going to try to see if I remember. I think we prognosticated a June 2018 release for it, and I think it might come out sooner than that, as long as cross your fingers and hope.
I like the demo, and I'm very excited to hear this can be coming out. We've got one of the guys in the crew backed it, so it's definitely going to get to our game table. Hey, there's another comment there from the name father, Steve O'Rourke, the famous Steve O'Rourke, who says, "Hey, naming is tough," and that's from the name father, by the way.
The name father,
especially when the train this and train that are taken. He's right about that comment.
Well, it's just it's so tough. I think a lot of times there's so many Euros out there, or strategy games, whatever you want to call it, where it's just the name of it is just like a town. I mean, and they're still fantastic games, right? Like like Cuba is like a really good game, but it's just it's just Cuba, right? He's just like right. That doesn't really tell you anything about the game. So like. I think people have it a little bit easier, with maybe like thematic games or Ameritrash, if you want to call them, because they're like eldritch horror. It's like oh that sounds interesting. It's like it's about horror and it's like eldritch, like sorcery and things like that. You get kind of, and I think it's a little bit easier to name those, but otherwise it's just like. Plus, I mean, it's just what I find interesting is that there's still names that haven't been taken. Right. Just like, like you can find, like when people actually find a name that like fits like a certain genre and it fits like, the name of it or what have you. I find that really, how is that not taken? Like when you like a game comes out and they have a name to it that doesn't sound like you think somewhere somebody made a game, with that name, but they never did.
You would think.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's all part of the fun aspect of game creation. When I got my job with Taste Minstrel Games, it definitely was going behind the curtain, if you will, and seeing how the things get created. Now, I mean, your original story was "Who am I?" Your question, like about a half an hour ago, was
right, 16 minutes ago.
Yeah. Basically, I'm a lifelong gamer. I played tons of role-playing games when I was young. Just like I played some board games when I was young. As with anyone, you kind of grow out of your game playing a little bit in my 20s. And then, I still played D&D a lot,
Sure.
I was lucky that a lot of my friends didn't move away. So we continued to, or when they got done with college, they moved back. And so we continued playing D&D on a pretty regular basis. But then we all, like, as we grew older and we got into our late 20s and early 30s and what have you, we started, having wives and families and things like that. And so you didn't have like 10 hours on a Saturday you could devote to going to somebody's, place and playing, role-playing games for, all day, that kind of thing. So I looked for something that I could get people over to my home, where my wife and my daughter lived. And with me, obviously, and
sure.
And I was looking for something, and I remember playing Talisman a lot when I was younger, and I really liked that game. It was just kind of like a D&D on a board game kind of thing. And then I went to like the Fantasy Flight website, and I read about other games, and I read about a game called Arkham Horror. And I was just like, and it's, where is it? It's like right back here. Or
there
here.
It is.
Yeah, there it is, right there. I read about that, and I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. You play against the game. I never thought about that ever. And so we one of those things where we decided, I picked it up, There was like an eBay seller that was like actually in my hometown that was like he had like a little warehouse. I went over to his house and I bought it from him. I brought it home and, got my friends over. We played the game, every rule wrong. We played a game that should have only lasted 3 hours over 6 hours because we didn't know what we were doing. The world was destroyed. Yog-Sothoth consumed us all. And but we had a blast. It was just like the most fun that we'd ever had in a long, long time. And then it was just down the rabbit hole, at that point. Everybody always says that they have that one instance, that one game where they end up playing whatever, and it just all of a sudden they like the doors open wide and you're like, wow, look at all these cool games, and you get excited about them. And yeah, so then I kind of just went down the rabbit hole for as far as that goes. And I remember wanting to think and talk and discuss board games as much as I could. And so I was up late all the time with my young daughter. She was like, 4 or 5 months old. And, my wife worked mornings, I worked nights. So I was up with her and like, taking care of her and feeding her and everything. And I'd be sitting on Board Game Geek, just reading about stuff. And I saw people writing reviews and I was like, I could write up some reviews. So I wrote up some reviews. People seemed to like what I was writing. And then around that time, there was only like really Scott Nicholson and Tom Vassell doing videos. And I kind of struck up a conversation with Scott Nicholson about a few things. And I just reached out to him. I said, how tough is this to make videos? And he was just like, well, and he kind of gave me a few pointers. And I started making a few videos here and there. And luckily, like, people looked at them and were like, wow, these might suck, but he's like one of only like 5 people making video content right now. So
I've seen some of your early videos.
yeah. And so,
hey, can I say the lighting was not as good as I've seen in your recent videos?
No, it was horrible. And
I think you used to use the light from like a window or something, if I remember.
Yeah, no, like I would have to I'd have to wait till everybody else went to bed. I did it in my kitchen where I have vaulted ceilings, so the echo was horrible. Right. And basically if I didn't do it during like the day when there was sunlight, it was horrible. I'd had to make sure it was like, if it was an overcast day, I couldn't do a video. It was not optimal, to say the least.
Dave's got another question for you.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something. Suzanne Sheldon has the title, some cool title like Master of Fireworks, and I think Alex Goldsmith from the Dukes of Dice, who also is working for Gray Fox, I think his title is something like Chief Noisemaker. Dave wants to know, do you have a cool title at TNG?
I do. I do.
Really?
After Michael and I discussed coming to work for him and we negotiated out a contract, he sent me my contract that I had to sign, electronically, electronic signature kind of thing. And it said official Viking pillager of Tasty Minstrel Games. So that is my title. If I had business cards, that's what they'd say on them. So it's it's part of the joy of being part of like being in a board game company. You kind of get to be avant-garde, right? If you will. Yeah. I mean, you don't get really. I mean, I'm sure at Asmodee and the bigger ones, whatever. I'm sure there's like a very structured corporate aspect, or more structured, I should say, corporate aspect to it. But for us smaller gentlemen and gentlewomen, we definitely can roll the dice and have some fun. But ultimately, I just made a bunch of videos. People seem to like what I did and what I said. And eventually, after 10 years of doing them or so, I got offered a job to work for a board game publisher as the official Viking pillager, but I'm more marketing, news. I do their podcast for them. I run their Kickstarter projects, things like that. So it's just. It's an exciting realm to be in. It's like, everybody was like, how's working for a board game company? I'm like, it's fantastic.
Dream job.
Yeah, it is. It's as good as you think it is. I mean, like, it's like when I'm playing board games, I'm working. and it's pretty amazing.
You know, I didn't get to visit with you much at Gen Con, although we got to visit at Dice Tower.
Yeah.
I know you do get to play games. So tell me, since Gen Con, what has been the best game experience you've had? What's the best game you've played since Gen Con?
Wow. That's a good question. Whistle Stop is really good. I've enjoyed my plays of that. Montana is a game that's releasing here at Essen, and I was able to get
I don't know anything about that one. What's that about?
Well, Montana is it's a game from Pegasus Spiel, I believe. No, it's from White Goblin Games, so I apologize. And if I remember correctly, it's Rudiger Dorn is the designer.
I like his games.
Yeah, it's a really good, quick, like 45-minute worker placement thing. You know, it's just so it kind of scratches that itch really well. You know, Montana. As far as plus it's Montana, so it's like it's that northern that upper Midwest kind of aspect or whatever. You know, it's one of those things where I don't know if it's going to be
and you're talking Montana, not the Hannah Montana TV game.
Not Hannah Montana. No.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, no, it's about settling. It's about like plus it's about like the Midwest. You know, about settling the Midwest and you know, so it kind of does speak to me as far as the theme. You know, just because of the fact that of where I live and the settlements and things like that.
Clemens Franz doing art from Montana. Interesting. I like what I see so far.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't. It's a really tight game. I mean, like as far as 45 minutes, like a playtime, but I still feel like I'm making really good choices and having a lot of fun as far as that goes. I really like. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. And the other games I can think of offhand that I really, really liked, Folklore the Affliction was a game like a very thematic, you know, story-based RPG crawl type of game. You know, that I really enjoyed. I did a video for it a long time ago. It finally came out. So, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, it was nice to see that game after it got done being produced, kind of thing. You know, just like, so I was excited to see that. And then Downforce, which is you know, from I can't even think of the name.
Restoration Games.
Downforce
I've played it probably 7 or 8 times so far. I love it. In fact, I haven't played Camel Up since I got Downforce, man. I really like Downforce. I like the way the betting works, but I love the way the bidding works. You know, when you're trying to decide if you're going to get which car or which special power, I mean, right off the bat, you've got this juicy decision to make.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a fantastic. I mean, I like bidding games. I've always really liked auction and bidding games, and Downforce just kind of tickles that itch as far as those games go.
Gumbo Live is all about tangents. That's what this show is all about. So I got a quick poll for you. Best seasoning: is it Romanian nutmeg, sweet Hungarian paprika, or Yugoslavian fish oil?
Well. If I'm gonna talk like that sweet Hungarian paprika, my friend Kevin Burkhartsmeyer.
That's where it comes from. Where the question comes from. Your podcast with Berkey. He swears by that. I was like, how are you like coming up with this? That was a good podcast. I don't know if you ever met Kevin. I met Berkey, and actually my son played him in the championship in the Baseball Highlights 2045 First Mention tournament at Dice Tower. They faced off in the championship game. Berkey was phenomenal. I loved hanging out with him, man. Really good guy. I'm just picking on him and his seasonings, but I laughed. In fact, I replayed that little part where y'all were joking around about the Romanian nutmeg and the Yugoslavian fish oil. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, it was just Kevin's got his not to give him like free cred here or free pub, but I mean the Game Toppers Kickstarter going on. He's just knocking it out of the park, and I'm really proud of him as far as and like right now, I have my Game Topper right here on top.
Did you guys use them at Gen Con?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Game Toppers?
We didn't have any at our booth, but they were all over the place.
They were everywhere, and I guess like BGG Con this year, like Scott Alden bought like a ton of them.
like
Oh, wow.
like 2-3 dozen or something like that of them. So and he's gonna have a ton of them at BGGCon. He's just gonna, instead of having like a board game tables type person, that kind of thing. Like he's just gonna out, because like they have like the hot games table area. Have you ever been to BGGCon?
No, I was supposed to go this year and I had to cancel, so I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, that stinks,
two
man.
of the guys from the Crew to Gumbo never miss. They said it's their favorite convention of the year. They love
it. Is. I mean, it's the best convention of the year for so many reasons. One of the big reasons is it's like the cool down, right? It's like, like working, and I know, woe is me. I have to travel places and go play games. I got to go play games at a resort in Florida. Oh my gosh, what a horrible life I live. Yeah. So, but no, well, other than the fact that apparently it's 1,000 degrees down there, I don't know how people live in that heat.
Okay, now if you go to my Twitter, you will see me wearing a jacket almost every morning. I know you guys kept saying it was hot, and I'm wearing a jacket every single morning because that air conditioning in there. That call was cold.
I remember getting off the plane, everything's fine, and then I walked outside to go to my Uber. I was like, oh, I'm like swimming through the humidity.
So Friday morning, I think it was, I got there early. I love to go play games early, and Eric from the Dice Tower was teaching Magic Maze. So I jumped on. The guy from Restoration Games.
Oh, Magic Maze. That's another good game I played. Yeah.
Is it Jay? I always forget the owner of Restoration Games. It's like Jay or something like that.
No, well, Rob Davio is like a big part of it too, right?
Right. It's Rob Davio and his partner, who's a lawyer. And the other guy was also a lawyer, and he was from Houston. Well, Eric and the owner of Restoration Games were in the lightest T-shirt and shorts that you could get. And me and the guy from Houston, we both have jackets on in the morning. So if anybody had walked by and watched us play Magic Maze, you could instantly tell which two were Southerners and which two were from the North. Because, it's just, if it gets to 68 degrees in Louisiana, we're wearing jackets. We're getting our ice gear. We got the gumbo going. I mean, that's just too cold, man.
Fair enough. But I mean, I was like, holy cow, but, BGGCon is like there's reasons why I like it, is that it's the last one of the year. So like you get through, like, you starting in like March, like the convention time starts, right? You got Gamma, and then you got Geekway, and then you got Origins, and then and then you got Dice Tower Con, and then you go to and then you got Gen Con. And then there's then you have Essen, and there's also like UK Game Expo in there. There's people from our groups that go to Tokyo Game Market, so there's all these different conventions like right after another. And then you hit September, and there's a couple of small ones that you might go to, but September and October, you get to kind of chill out. You actually get to like not be out of town 1 week out of every month. And you get to actually work, right? And you get to sit down and do your thing and get some stuff done. And then BGCon rolls around, and it's the last one of the year. And it's like everybody, it's like 2,000 of your best friends all staying at the same hotel. So it's like, that's the one cool thing about it. You all are at the same hotel. So you go to your room and you sleep, you get up in the morning, you put on your clothes, and you head downstairs, and you're right there. You hit the down button on the elevator, ding, it opens up, and there you're there. You're there with all of your friends. You're there with everybody. You're at the tables. You're playing games. It's so awesome not having to go anywhere, right? You don't have to get outside. You don't have to get an Uber to the convention. You don't have to do any of those things. You're right there, and it's just such a chill and atmosphere. I mean, if you want to be in the big giant room where everybody's playing games, you can be in the big giant room where everybody's playing games. Every floor of that hotel, and there's one floor that's just, it's like a meeting boardroom kind of floor that they have for like conventions. But so there's like probably, I think there's like 16 convention rooms, basically boardrooms where they set up tables and you can play. So if you want to just vanish, you can do that. Plus, they take like one big double room on every other floor, and they take all the furniture out of it, and then they put a bunch of tables in each one of those, and then you're able to play games. So like you can just vanish. Like we're gonna go up to floor 8 and we're gonna play games in the community room up there, and you're gone. But most people don't do that. They want to kind of stay where the buzz is, stay where the people are.
So it's seeing your friends, putting a top to the end of the year, and playing nonstop gaming, right?
Yeah, that's what and it isn't, there's events and there's things that happen, but I mean, for the most part, people just play games. And then there's the whole reason I was talking about that is because like there's a hot games room, which it really isn't a room. It's just a section of the big giant board game area that basically they have what's considered to be, maybe 20, 25 of the big games, like games they brought back from Essen, games that have just been released, things that people want to play. Like one year, like when Blood Rage came out, Blood Rage was on like 4 tables. I remember that because I taught it probably about 16 times because like there'd always be people there that wanted to play Blood Rage because they really wanted to check it out, and they'd have a sign that said teacher needed, and I was like, yeah, I'll teach how to play, because I mean Blood Rage is one of my favorite games, and I was like, yeah, there's no problem.
The Undead Viking.
Yeah. So then, but no, so it was, they're going to have like whatever it is, 20, 25 tables in this hot games area. And it sounds like every one of those tables is going to have one of those game toppers on top of it, from what I understand. Don't quote me, but I mean, it's just, it's a testament to just how excited people are to have, like the one that I have right here. I mean, they are, and I'm not saying that just because Kevin's a friend. I mean, I've said this story a few times. Like the first time he showed me one, because he lives about an hour away from me, and he was having a big board game meetup at his house, and so I drove over there. I drove over there in the morning. I was going to just play games at his house all day and drive home that night. And he showed me like one of the first ones that he had manufactured, and he was talking to me about it. And he was like, well, this is what I think, I can probably get, this for that and this. And I was like, I don't know, Kevin. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know if people are going to want this. I was just like, I mean, it looks cool. It certainly is neat. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's manufactured well and everything like that. But I was just like, I don't know if people are going to want to be, drop, $200, $300 on this, and he was actually like, oh, like he felt I made him feel bad. I felt bad, because I was just like, well, you want my honest opinion. And then he proved me completely and totally wrong.
Oh, that Kickstarter just blew up.
Well, no, it did. And, and it's a testament to Kevin as far as like how, it's one of those things where he wouldn't do it. If he wouldn't do it just to make the buck, he'd do it because he wants what he's creating to be amazing. And he's so meticulous about everything. Like, Taste Minstrel Games, we purchased a few of them from him so we can have them for art when we go to conventions. We can
nice.
make, so like when we set up our demo tables, we'll have, because they are, I mean, they're perfectly portable, and they turn any table into a high class, board gaming table or role playing game or even poker playing or whatever table area. It just does a really fantastic job. And we're like, and we saw those at Gen Con. And I saw people at Gen Con. I saw people just going wild about them. And Daniel Hadlock, the president of our company, he was like, "We're idiots." Because he offered them to us earlier. At Gamma. Yeah, at Gamma, we ran into him at Gamma, and he was like, "Oh, it's like, would you be interested in he's like, I'm going to have some pre-manufactured. Would you be interested? I can give you a really good deal on the price, but you got to have them at your booth at the convention." And then he had these little placards to sign up. It's like, it's like, go to here, to sign up to get an email when Game Toppers is, and Dan's like, I just, I think we're going to pass, and then he was just like, oh, we're dumb. I remember that's like what Daniel said. He's like, well, we're dumb. We should have bought them. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and then when he said, maybe we should do it, I was like, you know what? I mean, we can probably pass. It'll be no big deal. And then we saw people just going crazy for him. We're like, All right, here, full price. We'll buy them.
We'll buy 'em. So you're a big BGG guy. What about BGG Spring? Jason James, who's a friend of mine from the North Shore, who we got to play games with at Gen Con. North Shore being north side of the Pontchartrain here in New Orleans. But Jason wants to know if BGG Spring is like that. Have you been to BGG Spring?
I have not been to BGG Spring, though it is a convention I'm strongly considering going to next year. Mostly because, one, it's the same venue, right? So it's just kind of it's a totally a chill venue, and it's also it's they used to call it BGG Family because that was the idea that because like technically speaking, BGG Con is like 16 and older. That's what they say, and I've seen maybe 14 or 15-year-old kids running around, but whatever. So and that's not to say there's people like naked running down the hallways or something like that. It's just one of those things where it's like that's the designation for it. So that's why they did BGG Family or BGG Spring. And BGG Spring is something I want. My daughter is 10 years old. She's going to be 11 soon. She's like the number one person I play games with. And I'd really like to take her to a bigger convention, but I'd like to take her to a bigger convention where I don't have to walk. Like we wouldn't have to like leave a hotel, walk down a street, go somewhere. So like, and then I'd like to be able to take her to one like that where, if I would feel comfortable with the idea of if she wanted to go back to the room and relax for a little bit, I feel comfortable with, her being almost 11 years old. She'd have her phone on her where I could say, yeah, okay, you have a room to the key to the room. Just, go ahead. There's the elevator, like 20 feet away from us. You'll walk into that elevator. You'll hit floor 12. You'll go there and you'll get out and you'll go to the room and you'll close the door. Right. Whereas if you're like an Origins or a Gen Con, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to send my, 11-year-old daughter walking down a street in Indianapolis, like 3 blocks to get to, you would never do that. Right. That's just ridiculous. So it's just, so I think if I could get her to like a BGG Spring, I think that would be really nice just because I think she'd dig it. There's a couple of like semi-local conventions that she goes to with me that she really, really likes. And she's always asking, can I go to these conventions? Can I go? And, it's something that I'd like to. And I think BGG Spring would be a good fit for that.
Well, I can tell you 2 of the guys from the Gumbo, Bradley and Carlos, both go to Spring and both love it. It's a smaller version of what you're used to. But hey, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. Gumbo Live. Got my buddy Lance Myxter from Tasty Minstrel Games, the Undead Viking himself. You guys have a new game coming out on Kickstarter. Is that right?
We do. So
before you get to it, I do have a question for you from one of the listeners.
Yeah, what's up?
There's a listener named Paul who wants to know, have you thought about maybe doing, before the Kickstarter, a rules video?
We do.
A rules video, yeah.
There will be
rules from listener video. Paul Grogan. He said to tweak your notes about that.
Paul Grogan is, if you haven't checked out his channel, Gaming Rules, he's kind of under contract with TMG at this point. He is our go-to guy to do our Gaming Rules videos. He's done a few for us now, and he's knocked it out of the park each and every time. Go check out his Yokohama video if you want to see something that's absolutely fantastic. He does amazing work. Yes, we were able to get him a prototype. We actually handed it off to him at Gen Con, and he had some spare time for us here in October, and which is odd for him because
he's busy.
He is very, very much in demand, and rightfully so. He had a little bit of time before Essen, and he knuckled down and he got it done for us. I forwarded the video over to our development gurus, and from last I checked, if Paul you're listening, I was actually going to email you. It got the thumbs up from both Seth and Andy. So I think,
nice.
Other than, they didn't find any rules, miscues, or anything in it. So I think that I think he might have one thing that they want altered, but it's something really, really minor. But other than that, yes, we'll probably have that gaming rules video live later this week, as long as we get everything done and we can upload it and people can check that out.
Let's talk about it.
And he did a fantastic job. Oh, yes. So the Downfall, ostensibly the reason why I'm here. Not that I don't mind talking to you, dude. I was really happy that you reached out and offered to have this discussion or whatever. But
sure.
Downfall is the most thematic game that TMG is going to publish. Downfall is like the baby of designer John D. Clare, the guy who brought you Mystic Vale from AEG. This was a game that John he wanted to make a true 4X game. He wanted to make it, like the whole expand, exterminate, exploit, and I always forget one of them.
Explore.
Thank you. He wanted to make a true 4X game, and so he. Thank
you, Sean Ramirez. But go ahead.
Well, it's usually the exploit is the one that I forget. But so let me pull this up here, and I'll actually, this will be on the Kickstarter page. But I'll read you John's the reason why he designed this game. I'll read this to you. It's because this is straight from the creator of the game.
And John's the guy that did Mystic Vale and Custom Heroes. Is that right?
Yes, exactly correct. So, the design of Downfall came from a desire to create the perfect game for me and what I want as a gamer. I want an epic, true main event 4X game. I wanted it set on Earth, not in space, with primarily an economy-based area control, but with a constant tension of tactical, non-luck-based combat. I wanted to play for a high player count without adding a lot of downtime. And I wanted the game to maintain a constant urgency in every decision, beginning with turn 1. This was a long road to go from our initial concepts and to finally scale this into a finely tuned game. Along that road, there were quite a few major redesigns and months where I would put this game on a shelf while I worked on other things. But in the end, I ended up with a game that I am more excited to pull off that shelf of mine than play than anything else I've created. The satisfying difficulty in each decision, the tension-filled fast pace of each round, and the story arc building to a climactic ending make for a game that will take a really long time before I, and I hope everyone else, will get tired of it. Take all this with a grain of salt, of course, because I designed the game for me. Hopefully, it's something that I designed the game for you as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, John is I recorded a podcast that I'm releasing with him on. I'm releasing on Friday. He's just a really smart guy. He's sharp. Yeah, and it was kind of nice. I didn't have to talk much. He was able to just talk for all. Usually I have to sometimes fill up the empty spaces. I didn't really have to do that with John, but you could tell this was something that he really, like he said, it's something he wanted to make. He wanted to create it, and this is giving me a little bit of a story that he tells in the podcast, but he I forget what convention he was at, but he was at a convention and he sat down with Seth and Michael, and I think there might have been another person at the table. Michael Mendez, CEO of Tasty Minstrel Games, and Seth Jaffe, and they played Downfall, and they were wrapping up the game, and then Michael had somewhere he had to be, he had another appointment in just a few minutes, and he just said, "Well, thank you." And he got up and he walked away, and it was really abrupt. And John was like, "Oh, well, great. Another publisher played my game and was just like, yeah, well, see you later." And so right. he felt kind of like, well, that was a waste of my time, kind of thing. And then the next day, he was whatever convention was, he was in the open gaming area, and Michael walked up to him and he just said, "Hey, do you have that game Downfall on you?" And John was like, "Yeah, I got it in my backpack right here." And he's like, "Can I have it? And I want to go play it again." And wow. And he is just he said, "Yeah, sure." And he just said, He said, "Yeah, I laid awake all night just thinking about that game. So yeah, I want to publish it." So
What a story.
yeah, so it was just like John said he's like he went from like thinking that Michael had just like said, "Yeah, this sucks," and walked away. And then, but in actuality, Michael just thought the game was fantastic, and he wanted to do it. Now, I mean, and so we grabbed it, and there was still some development that was done with it, and we had the game for quite a while. And theoretically, the game might have been published a couple of years ago, but it was one of those things where, like, both John and TMG wanted to like make it something truly special. I mean, before it was just cardboard chits, on the board and things like that. But we started thinking, what if we made miniatures for it? What if we just really tried to make this game look amazing and give it like an epic feel, right? I mean, you could play a game of like, say, Eclipse without plastic spaceships, right? You could, but would it feel the same without plastic spaceships? It just wouldn't. So, and Michael is a big believer in, yes, a game can be really good to play with, and like the difference between like deluxe Orleans and retail standard Orleans is the wood bits, right? It's like you can reach into a bag and pull out a cardboard token, for like your bag draw, and it's going to work the exact same way as when you reach into a bag and you pull out a wooden token.
Yeah, there's a different feel to it, though.
Yeah, it's just like when you're shaking up the bag and you're like reaching in, there's just it's just a better tactile experience, and so that's kind of the same thing that we decided. And so, but of course that just added some time.
Those metal coins in Coliseum, I just love them. The clinkety clink on the table.
Exactly. When you're bidding and you're like got your coins in your hand, you're shaking them. Yeah, exactly. So it just adds to the experience at the table. But for me, the thing is that they decided, it's like, well, let's make this one special. So Downfall, now that we've talked all about that, is like Downfall, it's set in the future. It's set like in like 2213, I believe is the year is given. And there has been a 19-day nuclear war that has devastated like the entire Earth. 99% of the population is gone. It has been obliterated. And the few people that are left are what are going to be represented by the players. Each player is going to have a different faction, and they're going to have a different leader. And the leaders are going to be like, there's going to be the military person, there's going to be the scientist, there's going to be the politician, and so forth. And that's going to be an asymmetrical thing. Each person's going to have their own special powers and things that they're good at that other people are not going to have. That isn't to say that you can't go to war being a politician, but you're not going to be as good at it as the military leader, if you will. And so what you're going to be doing is that you're going to have a hand of cards. It's a card drafting mechanism where each person has a deck of cards that's in front of them, and the decks of cards are exactly the same. They're going to have like the same, like as far as the actions that are on them, but you're going to draw those deck of cards.
Pictures of the cards there.
Yep.
From the decks.
Yes. So like you're going to have those decks of cards, and what you're going to do is you're going to, just like any like card drafting thing, you're going to pick one card, and you're going to there's an action that's on the left-hand side, and there's an action that's on the bottom. The action on the left-hand side is the stronger action. The action on the bottom is the like a lesser secondary action, but it's still something you can do. The reason John did that was he didn't want people to like say, I really need to get food this turn. My people are going to starve. And then you're looking at your cards and you don't have like a resource gathering action, like a major action, but you're going to have one that's at least going to give you something, that kind of thing. He didn't want people ever to be in a situation where they're jammed and they just can't do the thing they want. They might not be able to do it to the expertise that they want, but they can still get something done. So you're going to pick one card, and you're going to put it face down, and then everybody's going to reveal their card, and you're going to do those actions. However, you do have what's called a reserve as well. You're going to have two cards that are face down on your player board that are in reserve. So if you have like a really good action that you might want to save a turn or two, and because you're going to, after you get done playing your card, you're going to take the cards in your hand, you're going to hand them to the person on your left. So you're going to say goodbye to those cards. What you're going to be doing is, like, let's say like you really need to like explore this turn, but next turn you're going to fight somebody. You've got to like initiate a conflict with somebody. You could take that initiate conflict card, and if you have in your one of your 2 cards in your reserve, if you had one of those being like a resource gathering thing that you could replace it, and then that way you could keep. Like you could then play a resource thing, but you could keep that card. You can kind of plan ahead, which is something I really like. I like the fact that you can like put something or a double purpose. Like if you know the person to your left like really needs like an abate radiation card, like but you don't want to give them that. You don't want to help them. You want to kind of screw them over so they don't have that, and you're going to be handing them those cards where you're like, no, I'm going to put that in my reserve where you can't get at it, and I'm going to take another card. I'm going to use that. And so now you've kind of like, so you have more of an effect over it. But anyway, you turn your cards over, you do the actions, and then you have the cards that the person handed to you. Then you draw another card from your deck and you put it into your hand. And then you're going to do the same thing over again when you choose. When you draw that card and put it in your hand, if anybody draws a card that's a winter card, the winter cards will force the track. There's a winter track. They're going to force it to move forward. And as it moves forward on the track, certain events are going to happen. Radiation will spread. You'll have situations where like maybe you have to feed your people and they're starving, that kind of thing. And then you do the winter reactions, and then you draw another card and put it in your hand. So basically you could draw another winter card. It's very possible you could. And then in case you do the same thing again, but you trying to make sure that you get all your cards in your hand. So you have 5 cards in your hand, you pick one and do the same thing over. Once the winter track reaches the end of the track, that signifies the end of the game. So there's no set round number. Okay. It's just as the winter cards are drawn. So you can kind of sense when like things are catching up. It's like, okay, well the game could be over this turn. Like you got like maybe 2 spots left on the track. If 2 people draw a winter card, the game's over, that sort of thing. And I do like, knowing that you don't really know when it's going to end. You can have a pretty good idea of when it might end, but you can't guarantee it, that kind of thing.
It says 90 minutes to 150 minutes. Is that pretty accurate in your experience?
Yeah, it is. Obviously it just depends on the number of players, and definitely the first couple times you're going to play, especially with new people, it's going to take longer just because, grokking the board and like understanding where you're going to be moving your different people to like collect different resources and how you like fight radiation, because a lot of it has to do with like, like having enough, like, because the radiation is something that will spread as the game goes on. You can, fight the radiation and get it destroyed. Radiation doesn't necessarily make a spot on the board necessarily. It can obliterate an area where if you go into it, you just will die. But that's only if you allow it to just kind of increase the radiation, to increase it being abated, as they say in the game. But you can still go to a spot that has radiation and do things there, but you need to make sure that your people are either like protected, like it's considered to be like you have a normal citizen, and then you'll equip them. And so by equipping them, you make them a little more powerful and you give them some protection, or you can build structures on those spots that will actually have some radiation protection as well. And then so you got to make sure you have that so you can make sure that people aren't going to be killed off by the excess radiation. The interesting thing is that you actually will. One of the actions that you do is actually waking up people from cryostasis, because of the fact that's how you're going to get you're going to recruit people by, basically like people that saw the bombs coming and they went underground and they were put in hibernation. And so now you're going and you're waking these people up and then putting them to work for you and basically drafting them into your faction. So I mean, there's always something cool going on. The game, like I said,
sounds like it.
It's there's a lot of narrative to it as far as it tells a story. I there's nothing wrong with playing a game like Yokohama, but I don't play Yokohama and say I really feel like a merchant in the Meiji period of Japan. I just don't, right? It's
call me Meiji.
Yeah, it's just like you just don't feel like that. But this game, you
this
feel,
it's got that theme going.
It's got that theme, and I dig that it is. And of course, it's going to be a deluxe thing where we are going to put, we are going to have a deluxe version of the game that you're only going to be able to get through Kickstarter. with some limited sales at conventions afterwards. But
some people may not be familiar with the deluxifying. Does that entail? I know you with the UV coating on the box, and the cards are upgraded, and usually the box is even upgraded itself. I know on Flow of History, the box is supposed to be bigger.
Well, yeah, just because it's got to have like the resin in there.
Yeah. So how are y'all deluxifying this one?
Well, I mean, we're always like looking for more things. Like when we were doing Crusaders, like we had lots of really good ideas as far as how to deluxify by putting in like the different But the weird thing is that
and the plastic.
we had that's a great is like Crusaders. It was like people were like, well, we want wooden knights. There was like that was the big thing. People were like really pushing. They wanted wooden knights and wooden bits, right? And that's one of the things that's a big challenge for us because we're trying to come up with a way to put both plastic and wood into those spots on those things, because like a lot of people were just basically saying, well, I don't want plastic, and a lot of people are saying I don't want wood, and so we were trying to, and they're like, well, can you pick one? And we're like, we were originally thinking, well, maybe we could let them pick which one they wanted, and then we just said that will just be a logistic nightmare.
It wouldn't work that way.
We'll just give them both, and they can decide which one they're going to use. Or they And so, but I mean, that was something we never even considered that until the campaign going on. And I know fully well that once Downfall gets rolling, people are going to have like, oh, why don't you add this or why don't you add that? And I love that interaction with the people on the Kickstarter, because they're just, and there was even a point where we were like, we need another stretch goal. And we were like, just out of ideas. We were just like with Crusaders, we're like, I don't know. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to ask the backers. And I just made an update, and they were like, I said, we need another stretch goal. We need to hear what you guys want. You tell us. And we got, a good suggestions. Yeah, a good 3-4 dozen ideas. Now, not all of them were like, financially viable. And I said, but I mean, we definitely got like 2 or 3 really good ideas that we were able to turn around and we were able to offer, and which is something that we were excited to do.
An in-home game tutoring by Lance Myxter should have been a stretch goal.
No. I am a horrible game teacher. I always end up. I teach a game, and then I'll forget like a rule, but I'll remember it when I'm playing it, and then I'll do it, and everybody's like, "Well, why didn't you tell me I could do that?" And I'm just like, because I forgot. Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, as you score like 70 points this turn. You forgot to tell us about that rule. No. So the thing is that this one, deluxification was an idea that came about with Orleans when they did the Kickstarter for that. Now, I think 4 years ago, I can't remember. Michael just basically has said, was like, if I would play a really good game, I want the game to look as amazing as possible. And so ever since that, we've gone with the deluxe process for other games, with Yokohama, with Chimera Station, with Flow of History, with Crusaders. We want people to know that, like, one, like, we're going to make them a really, really fantastic game, that looks really, really cool. But two, we don't want it to be an exclusive, right? I mean, yes, technically, that aspect, or having, that game that kickstarted, deluxe game, it's exclusive to the Kickstarter, and you can possibly go third market and get a copy of it later, or if you go to conventions, like we might have copies for sale, a small number up for sale. But the game, the retail version and non-deluxe version and the deluxe version are going to play exactly the same. There's nothing added to it.
Exclusive from a content, from a gameplay standpoint, right? Yeah,
I mean, there's no like tiles that you'll only get in that version or anything like that. It's just it's straightforward. But as somebody who has like, I have the Okazu brand Yokohama, which is the Japanese publisher. I have a retail version of Yokohama, and I have a deluxe version of Yokohama. I can definitely say, obviously, the deluxe version of it is fantastic.
Gives you the best game experience, yeah.
Easily, it is, easily the best experience, and it is, it's just that whole, just looking at the table, the tactile feel, and how it's just, it's just fun to play, that kind of thing. So
yes. Speaking of stuff that kind of draws you out, one of the things that I liked about Downfall, one of the things that attracted me was that artwork. I don't know how much Adam McIver had to do with it. I know he's listed on there. I like some of the stuff he did on Bottom of the Ninth and Best Treehouse, but I saw a name that I'm not familiar with, Fran Lewis. Who is that?
Well, that is actually, and I'm going to probably misremember the story behind this, but Fran Ruiz is, I believe, oh man, if I remember correctly, they did some of the artwork on a few other games. I can't remember, but that was one of the original artists on the game. As far as some of the original like board art and original like tile art and things like that we had, and you got to remember this is a game that we had originally like considered like publishing probably 3-4 years ago, but it's one of those things where it's remained in development, things like that. But a lot of the artwork that has been processed and a lot of things that we requested and everything like that has just maintained and like been kept part of the game. Adam definitely has taken like the artwork and the art assets that we have, and he's tweaked them. He's made them kind of in a way. I mean, not to say that what the original artists did, was not amazing or not like fantastic, because it all was.
But he's deluxeified it.
Well, I mean, it's just, I think in my opinion, it's one of those things where he's taken some of like the fantastic artwork as far as like if you look at the cover of the board and like you see the figure like in the armor holding on to the holding onto the gun and everything like that, obviously wearing some sort of like, power suit of armor or whatever.
Yeah, I've got it on the screen.
Yeah. It's very evocative. It just looks super, super cool. And, it's one of those things where what we got was, that, we wanted to make sure that the game looked both like we wanted to bring out the theme, but we also wanted to make it look like something we'd never done before, and that's one of those things.
It's got a unique look, that's for sure, that I haven't seen before. Hey, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it's just like if you think of other titles, I mean, just the other titles we have, I mean, just nothing that we've created looks like anything. I mean, it just doesn't look like anything that TMG has made. And that's something that we're super excited about, and you look at that artwork and you're seeing like the giant like space machines, obliterating, and draining the world of any life and any happiness that it might have. The game is definitely very bleak, and it is, as far as the theme and what have you. And it is, it's like I said, it's not. I mean, I'm stunned, a little bit that that Michael liked it as much, because this didn't seem like it would be a Michael type of game, but he really enjoys it. So
I can't wait to see it when it comes out. It's got a 3.0 rating on the BGG Heavy scale. What do you compare it to? Is there anything? It sounds like it's a little heavier than the usual TMG game, although Yokohama obviously pretty close. But what do you think? Is there anything you can compare it to from a heavy standpoint? If a viewer was trying to figure out where does this match up in my collection?
Well, there's a lot of things to keep track of. I mean, that's like the one thing that I tell people when they're playing it. It's like you're going to have to make sure that like you're kind of you're making sure that you have enough food, or at least access to food, so your people aren't going to starve. You got to make sure that you're not letting your areas of the world getting too irradiated. You got to make sure that you're building up enough defenses to, like if somebody does decide to attack you, that you will, be able to, defend yourself. You'll have to make sure that you are, building the structures you need. You're also researching technologies that'll assist you. So there's all kinds of things like that, and so it's like you're juggling, right? And each time you're trying to do something else, that's just another ball that you got to keep in the air. So I definitely would put it as a heavier game.
Okay.
but I don't think it doesn't feel like it's heavy, I guess is what's weird for me, is that it just like, in a weird way, it's something where like the time kind of flies by, and like you realize you've been playing everybody knows how to play. You realize you've been playing the game for a couple hours, and but you haven't really even noticed, right? You haven't, because the thing is that when everybody turns their card over and does their action, the actions themselves are pretty quickly resolved. I mean, if you have a conflict, you might, but there's no dice or anything for the conflict. It's all very much, like very, very straightforward, systemic. You determine powers of the people that are actually having the combat, and then you determine like who wins, that kind of thing. So there's no like massive like, oh, play that card and add that modifier, play that card and play that modifier. No, it's not like that. So those even conflict between two players is resolved really quickly. But the other things are, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to go here and I'm going to awaken people from cryostasis. Okay, well then you're going to get that many people, put them on the board. I'm gonna move my because each player has ships that will transport people and they can go and explore. So I'm going to move over to this hex and I'm going to explore it. I'm going to see what's there. Okay, boom, turn the hex over. You know exactly what's there, that sort of thing. So it's even though each person has an individual action and you go around the table and do it, each person's action can usually get resolved in a minute. And all of a sudden, then you're right back at it, right? You're looking at your cards, you're picking which one you want to pick, and you're putting it down, and then the big reveal, revealing the card and showing what you picked compared to everybody else. And I like reveal games. I really like that whole process of
that sounds
like
fun.
Well, no, any game that has a reveal moment where everybody puts a card down and you turn it over at the same time. So like you're looking at everybody else to see what everybody else did, and you're seeing how much they're going to screw with you depending upon what they chose and things like that. I really liked that part.
It's a great mechanic.
I love that aspect of it. So,
all right, so that is Downfall coming out. Well, actually out on Kickstarter.
October 17th.
October 17th, coming up next week. Oh, wow, you guys are excited about that. So that's good. What is up next for the Undead Viking? Where are you heading to next?
Well, VGGCon is my next thing. I'm not going to Essen, so I'm laying low. I'm going to be running the Kickstarter when it launches on the 17th of October. So I'll be rolling with that. I'm going to once that wraps up. I mean, because that's my life, right? It'll be like sitting there responding to questions, answering questions, responding to the inquiries about things that the people are going to have. And it's both emotionally and mentally draining, but so rewarding, right? Because you interact with so many people and you're able to help them and answer those questions and things like that. So, but it takes a lot out of you. It really does. Just like, because also at the same time, it isn't, if you haven't run a Kickstarter or know it helps somebody run a Kickstarter before, it isn't just you fire it off and then you just sit back and watch the money roll in. It's like every day you're tweaking it and you're changing things up and
keeping that excitement going, but making sure that the misinformation is not there. People are asking legitimate questions, and you gotta answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of questions, listener Patrick has a question for you.
Oh, Patrick, what do you got?
Why hasn't Lance answered his emails about going on the "What Did You Play This Week" podcast? That's from listener Patrick Hillier, I think. Jesus.
Patrick, I know we got to figure out a day. I apologize.
He told me he's just picking on you. He said,
"No, that's fine. I love Patrick, and he's absolutely right. I should respond to him and let him know." Patrick, we'll figure out a day, and I'll be on.
Patrick. He responded to my emails.
Oh,
just throwing that out there, man, Patrick.
Nice.
All right,
so we'll figure out a day.
Normally at this time of the day we do the on-feed game. I won't be able to do it tonight. We're running a little bit long, but I had something prepared just in case for you. Something I'm going to try out.
All right, what's going on?
It's called the Pop Quiz. So normally we do the on-feed game where we play 20 questions and the listeners try to help me figure out what game you really want to play next. But that takes a while. So I've got just a quick pop quiz for you. Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Putting you on the spot. Here we go. Which one is more expensive? A Wheaties box signed by Kent Herbeck and Kirby Puckett on eBay right now, or Yokohama Deluxeified on BGG Market. Best price I could find. Come on now.
I'd go with Yokohama, honestly. Well,
Yokohama.
Wait. Yeah, I'll go with Yokohama.
Yokohama. Well, sorry, it looks like the Herbeck and Puckett Wheaties signed box right there, and I have it on the screen for you. $199 somebody's asking for. Now, Lance, that doesn't mean they're going to get $199.
That's true.
They are asking $199. And Yokohama, best price I could find was $105 plus $20 in shipping, and that was by far the cheapest. Everybody else was in the $150s to $180s. So obviously that Yokohama has held its value, man.
Well, the deluxe version has all that stuff. So, see, Kirby, he signed so much stuff before he passed away, and Ken Herbeck's still with us. So I just was going with the idea that I almost switched when I remember that sadly, the greatest twin ever, Kirby Puckett, is no longer with us. But
I'll give you a chance to catch up here on the last question. Here we go.
Right.
Ready?
Here we go. Let's do this.
All right, here we go. This one, I may be able to stump you here. Case of T-Boy's Louisiana Cajun seasoning. That's a case of it.
Is that with Hungarian paprika?
No, it does have paprika, but it does not have Hungarian. Good callback, though. Or, which one's more expensive? A case of T-Boy's Louisiana Cajun seasoning. That's $12. Okay. Or the best price I could find for Seafall on Amazon.
Oh, well, it's gotta Seafall's, they're giving that away now at this point, which is sad. Which is really, really sad for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the case of the seasoning is and
you would be correct. A seasoning is $5.50 per pack times 12 plus the shipping. It's way over the $42 you can get for Seafall. I won't tell you what we paid for Seafall at Gen Con 2016.
I've seen Seafall go for $20 new and shrink. That's just an unfortunate situation where, as long as that game was in development, I think they still might have put it out too soon.
I think you're right. I'll tell you that I haven't got a chance to play the guy that bought it. We have not gotten it to the table. He's kind of dropped out for other reasons, but we keep promising we'd get a table. But I did hear today, Russ from the D6 Generation on the Dice Tower podcast today. He said, if you will just stick with it past game 6, or month 6 or whatever they're calling it in the game, that he really enjoyed all the crazy things that started happening in the back half of the game. So I am one of those people that think that the backlash from the hype, maybe the game is not the greatest game ever made, but the backlash from the hype has driven down the ratings, not necessarily that it's a bad game.
The problem with it, and I'm not here to bash on Seafall, because we got through 5 or 6 sessions and then it fell apart for us. Mostly because I was able to have like a really lucky turn and I scored like so many more points than everybody else. It was just one of those things where I cashed in a reputation, I cashed in a treasure, and I got a really lucky a storybook result or something like that. And people just soured on the game. The problem is that it didn't have a really good reset process where like you play for whatever it is, 2 hours for your first session or hour or whatever the session long is. And I think the problem is too, we played with full 5 people. If we played with 3, I think we would have been better off. But we played with 5, so we play for whatever it was, and then okay, we're gonna play again next time. And so and sometimes we'd even play 2 in a row. But we'd play through it. But then, like, you kind of just go back to the beginning, right? And then you just kind of build up again, and then it just all crumbles down. And you build up again, and it all crumbles down. And it's just like it has this like thing of like, when I build something or create something, I want to be able to be happy with it, right? I want to be able to like, oh, look at this stuff I have, right? And it had this process where it just like it never really built, in my opinion, off what you created. And so that's one of the reasons I kind of soured on it. And plus, the sad thing about that is, and I'll let you say which one, is that it isn't that legacy games died because of that or anything like that. But I knew of a lot of games that were like legacy games that were in development that like sounded really, really good. Like there was a really, really good development game from Artana that they were making about like a civilization game where you would start off like as during the Stone Age, and then you get done with the Stone Age, and then you move to the Bronze Age, and you go to the Bronze Age, and so like, and you carry your clan forward, and like, and you create things and do things. And I was like, I actually played like a demo of it at BGCon like 3-4 years ago, and I was really intrigued by that. I thought it was fantastic, and and then now it's just kind of shelved. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, we're working on it, but it's just kind of on the, and obviously the Pandemic Legacy Season 2 is going to come out, and right. I'm sure everybody will lose their minds over that, and they're going to be really excited about it. But that's built off of the the Pandemic, for lack of a better term, legacy, right? Pandemic is a game that has a very fervent, excited following of that game, and I'm one of the few people in the world that doesn't really enjoy it, but but you take Pandemic, a game that people really, really took to and just loved, and then, because who doesn't want to save the world, right? And then you have a game like that, and then you add a narrative, you add a story, you add these cool little story aspects or whatever to it. So I mean,
Yep,
exactly. And so I it was one of those things where it's like, wow, I get it, right? I get why people really enjoyed it. I get why people just thought it was fantastic. And so when Season 2 comes out, it's going to be another gajillion-dollar game. I mean, everybody knows that. It's just
by the way, Tom is hinting that Seafall. He didn't say it, so let me not misquote him. But it sounded like he was hinting that there's another version of Seafall coming out. So let's keep our eye out for that.
Well, maybe.
I think if a little bit more tweaks might have been able to fix Seafall,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but the thing is that, it's just, we haven't, there's been games that have legacy aspects to them, like Gloomhaven has a little bit of a legacy aspect to it, but it isn't like a true rip the card up type of thing.
No, more of a campaign style, right?
Yeah, in which I don't know. It's just. I was really looking forward to the idea that somebody would come up with a true legacy fantasy RPG type game. I was really looking forward to the possibility somebody would do that, where then having being able to fail at saving the world. I love that idea, of if you had something very much like a Sauron, it's like a Lord of the Rings type of thing. Not Lord of the Rings, obviously, but it's and then having somebody create a huge D&D campaign that everybody was cooperatively trying to defeat the big evil, and you all kind of work together, and you have no idea what's going to happen. And, when I play D&D, it's one of those things that's I'm the DM, so I know exactly what the story is. And that's and the players have no idea, right? But I really like the idea of what if everybody had no idea what the story was, and you were able to play kind of a choose your own adventure kind of thing, where you weren't able to save the page, and just I don't want to go there. I'll go back. I'll read something else.
Seventh Continent train.
Seventh Continent is amazing. It is my game of the year, unless something ridiculously stupid comes out. I did a review of Seventh Continent 1,000 years ago, when it first for the Kickstarter.
Oh,
and I was sorry. Yeah, and I was just this is nothing I've ever played. And so, and after I got that, I probably put a good 6 or 7, 8 sessions, long sessions into it, and it's. It's like nothing else that's ever been created. I mean, there's few games that you can say that about, and there's stuff that I've done in the game, and then I've kind of gone back and tried to, and then I found more secrets on those cards where I didn't notice this little thing. You're just how did I miss this? I saw this 1,000 times. How did I miss this? How did I miss this little spot here? Quick, pull that card out. See what it says. That kind of thing. So. Seventh Continent is very, very good. Serious Golf should be ridiculously proud of themselves with that game.
They should be, and it's blowing up. Lance, you and I could probably talk about board games till 2 a.m. here, but we're gonna have to wrap this up. I do want to thank you for coming into board game, for coming into Gumbo Live. Lance Myxter of Tasty Minstrel Games. He is the chief pillager, the Viking pillager. What is it called?
The official Viking pillager of Tasty Minstrel Games.
Hey, how can they reach you on social media?
Best way to find me, you can reach me on you can find me at Twitter, just the Undead Viking, not just Undead Viking on Twitter at Undead Viking. If you want to reach out to me, you can email me at lance@playtmg.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me if you Google Undead Viking. I am not part of the Florida heavy metal band Undead Viking Mafia.
That's not you.
No, that's not me. I guarantee you, but I'm not part of that band. But I guarantee you, if you just Google that, you'll find my YouTube channel, and you can reach me there, or any number of ways. So
good luck with the new Kickstarter. Downfall coming out October 17th. I love the podcast. Next time I have you on, I got to ask you some questions about the podcast, including that music. That is crazy music that I just absolutely love. It's a great podcast. Check it out. It's the Tasty Minstrel Games podcast.
Yep. PlayTMG.com is the website. So if you have any questions about any games or anything like that, that's where you go.
That's it. All right, board gamers. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. This is another episode of Gumbo Live with Lance Myxter. You can always hit me up at Board Game Gumbo on Twitter. And until next time, Lance, laissez le bon temps rouler.
C.
Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you later, Lance.